Okay, so I am live. We are live. Okay, let me just, yeah, cool. So audio is coming out fine. Yeah, I started a bit early because I just wanted to ensure that the stream settings are okay. But welcome everyone. So, final day of 2021, and we are going to do something different from your normal coding classes here. Okay, uh, let me show you what we are going to do, and then I hope you guys enjoy what I teach today, and you guys try to do this at your home. You can. So, okay, let me show you. So, the title, the heading of this video might have been a bit vague. So, let me just show you. No, this is not in Scratch. This is not using any software. We are going to do something using circuits. Okay. So, you'll see for yourself. So, you see, I have a setup here. So, I have a bulb. Okay. And I have a circuit here. Okay. And right now, you'll see that if I move my hand over the circuit, wait, yeah. So if I move my hand to the right side, the bulb turns on, and if I move my hand to the left side, the bulb turns off. So I'm not touching anything, I'm just moving my hands over the circuit, okay? This is, yeah, I get it. Most of you, a lot of you will not be having the parts that I'm going to be using for this video. Watch the video, learn how to do it, and then all of these parts that I'm using are very cheap and easily available. The links of where you can get these parts will also be added to the video's description, so you guys can buy the parts if and when you guys need it. Okay, but this is what I'm going to do today. Okay, I'm going to show you how have I coded this part. How are we doing this? That when I move my hands, I'm not using any motion sensor, I'm using IR sensors. There are different types of sensors, so I'm not using any motion sensors, but you will see that with these IR sensors, as I move my hands to the left, to the right side, the bulb turns on, and as I move my hand to the left side, the bulb turns off. No, my hands are completely, there is no magnetic power, there is nothing, there is no magnetism, there is nothing. It's literally, it is detecting how my hand is moving. That is it. The way I have coded it is detecting how my hand is moving. If my hand is moving to the right side, then it will turn the bulb on, and when I move my hand, to the left side, then the bulb turns off. So I'll show you. I'll show you guys how I have done this, and then yeah, I'll show you guys the code. So we are going to be doing two things. So I'm going to show you how to make the circuit, what parts you will need to make the circuit, and then along with that, so this will require some code. So I have already coded the code that is running on this computer. So it is using an Arduino chip, and it is running this code, this Arduino code. Okay, so I'll also show you how to write this code, and then one second. Give me. Okay, yeah. So I'll show you guys how to write the code of this and how to make the circuit. Okay, so let's come back to our scene here. Okay, so let's understand how to make the circuit. What do we need to make the circuit, and how can we make the circuit? Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to, one second, I have this, yeah, this one. Okay, so I'm going to unplug my circuit from the computer. Okay, so there are lots of wires here, you don't have to worry about this, but the main part of our board here is this Arduino. Okay, So you guys can, I will add the link of, where you can get these parts. But we are using an Arduino Uno. This is basically a small computer on which you can add code, and this can run electrical circuits. Okay, uh, this is an Arduino Uno board, and then these three small parts, these three things that you see here. Let me remove one. So these are called, yeah, my hand is, yeah. So these circuits, these small things, these are called IR sensors. These are called infrared sensors, okay? I used these in one of my previous episodes, okay? I used these in one of my previous episodes. I did another episode on how to make a robot car, and I used the IR sensors there as well. I have explained what IR sensors can do, but it can basically learn it this way. So you see it has two bulbs here. So let me focus on my hand. Yeah. So now IR sensors have these two LEDs. One is a photoelectric LED and one is an infrared LED. So infrared LED emits light and the photoelectric LED detects light. So together, these two can detect whether there is something in front of it or not. Okay, so that is what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is, when I'm moving my hand from left to right, I'm turning these three circuits on one by one. So when the first circuit turns on, and after that if the second circuit turns on, and then after that if the third circuit turns on, that's how my computer knows, that's how Arduino knows that my hand is moving from left to right. Okay, and yeah, so the way Arduino is getting to know whether my hand is moving from left to right or right to left is the order in which these three IR sensors are getting turned on, basically. So this one turns on when my hand is closer to this, okay? This one turns on when my hand comes nearby here. So basically, if my hand is moving from left to right, what we are doing is we are checking if this is on, and if this is on, after that if this gets on, and once this gets on, after that if this gets on, that means my hand has moved from left to right. So turn this bulb on. And similarly, if this gets on first, and then this gets on, and then this gets on, that means my hand has moved from right to left. So turn the bulb off. Okay, it's a very, very simple logic. So let me just yeah, the camera, okay, don't worry about that. The camera won't be blurry anymore, but yeah. Okay, cool. So let me show you how to connect the circuit, okay? So first, let me just remove these IR sensors from the board. So what we are needing is, you can use as many IR sensors as you want to have a bit more, clarity, like more efficient motion can be detected with more sensors. But let me just show you how this entire circuit is made, okay? So as I said, we are going to be using an Arduino Uno board. So now Arduino Uno board, now this one has pin numbers. So let me focus it again on the board. Okay, so you can see now there are some ports here and there are some ports here, and all of these ports are numbered. There are some numbers. So when you buy an Arduino board, you will be able to see that these numbers. So what we do is we attach wires to these ports, and then we can define which of these ports are going to take in input, basically like is going to see, like for your computers and for your mobile devices, there are different set of hardwares that detect input from the user, and then there are different set of hardwares that provide output to the user, like for your laptop. Let me just put this down here. Yeah, so for your laptop, yeah, for your laptop, what happens is your monitor provides you with the output of whatever you are doing on the computer, and your keyboard specifically takes in input of what you are writing, whatever you want to write. Yeah, and similarly your mouse takes an input. It's an input device, and your screen is an output device. For your phone, your screen does both the activities of taking input from your touch sensors and displaying whatever it wants to display as an output. Okay, so now these small boards, these are also like small computers, but these are very primitive computers. So they have these ports. Now you can define which ports are going to be input and which ports are going to be output. Okay, and they need is they need a power supply. So there is a port here that you can connect to your computer, and that will provide it with a power supply. Or what you can do is you can get a battery pack, and it runs on a 12-volt battery as well. So I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 times 1.9 volts. Yeah, it can run on 9 volts. So you can just get a battery pack, and you can use this to run your Arduino as well. But through this port, you will first of all have to upload a code into this. So whatever code that I showed you, okay, yeah. So on Arduino we code using C language. I will show you guys how do we code for Arduino. It's very simple to code on Arduino. Now whatever code you write, so like the code that you're seeing on my screen here, whatever code you write, this code needs to be uploaded into Arduino. Okay, so that is done through this port using this cable. Okay, so this cable, gets attached here, and you can upload the code to an Arduino. And once the code is uploaded, then you can remove the cable and attach the battery pack, and your Arduino will run without needing any extra connection from your computer. Okay, so now first of all, what we are going to do is let's understand what pins are there on these IR sensors. So let me focus it again on the IR sensors. Okay, so now these IR sensors, they have 3 pins. Okay, so again, if you look closely, they have the pins, everything is written on these circuit boards of what these pins are doing. So one of these pins take in power supply, and one of these pins are ground. The last pin here provides the data of whether there is something in front of it or not. Okay, so these pins are labeled. So the pin that takes in power supply is labeled as VCC. The pin that needs to be connected to the ground is labeled ground, and the pin that provides the data is labeled as output. Okay, so all we have to do is let's just start building our circuit first. Okay, yep. So what you can do is just get a breadboard. Now breadboard is something on which you can build circuits. They have you don't need breadboards, but on breadboards it's easier to build circuits. Okay, I'll show you guys how the benefit of a breadboard. So what a breadboard has is let me focus it again here. Yeah, so on a breadboard you will notice that it has lots of these holes here. Now the benefit of using a breadboard is it helps us simplifying our connections, because all of these holes are connected together. So if you attach a 5-volt supply here and a ground here, that means you can get a 5-volt supply from all of these ports. Okay, yeah. So if I attach a 5-volt supply on the top here and a ground here, then all of these vertical pins will provide you with 5-volt supply, and all of these vertical pins will provide you with a ground connection. So you won't need lots of wires to build your circuit. That's why breadboards are useful. And then in the internal part, all of these horizontal holes are connected together. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are just going to use 3 of these IR sensors and just attach them to a breadboard, just like this. Place them like this, one after the other. 1, 2, and 3. Simple as that. Let me focus my camera once again. Yeah. Okay, so just place these three IR sensors like this. Now once that's done, what you can do is, so we know that the first pin of all of these are output pins. Basically they will tell your computer, they will tell your Arduino if there is something in front of it or not. So what we can do is you can use you can get these wires as well. So these are jumper wires. So I can just now, what I can do is the third pin, so wherever the third pin is connected, I can use wires to connect those third pins of each of these IR sensors to some of these numbered ports here. So I'm using port number uh, 13, 12 and 7. And you can use any ports you want, just remember the numbers that you're using. So the very first IR sensors data will be received by pin number 13. Okay, now similarly what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect, let me just connect out of those. So the second IR sensors data will be received by pin number 12. Okay, and then what I can do is I can use another wire and say that the data of the third IR sensor will be received by port number 7 here. So I have defined now port number 7, 12 and 13 will be getting the data from these IR sensors, telling us whether something is in front of these IR sensors or not. All right, so now that we have done that, now all these three IR sensors need power supply. Okay, any electronic circuit will need some power supply. So what we can do is, so Arduino needs a 9-volt supply to run, but if you look at the circuit here, it can also output 5 volts that is labeled on one of these ports here. So 5 volt and ground, what you can do is you can use 2 wires, and let me just, so I can use 2 wires and connect the 5 volt. So let's connect 5 volts. So 5 volts is here. Okay, and 5 volts can be supplied to this plus vertical line here, and the ground ground can be connected to a breadboard here, to one of the breadboard ports. So now what we have to do is we have to supply all three of these, we have to provide all three of these IR sensors with 5 volts. So just use pins. So now we know that this needs, so ground is the center one, ground goes in the middle, and we need 5 volts for the first one, and you can connect that one to the first IR sensor. So now I have the power supply connected for the first IR sensor. Okay, and similarly I can just connect 4 more wires, and those will provide, this is just a bit of a time consuming task, but once your circuit is ready, then everything else will be completed in a second, in like less than 5 minutes. So we need, okay, and just ensure the wires are properly connected. Okay, so perfect. So now I have connected these two things. I also need to connect the third IR sensor. So let's connect the third IR sensor. Its ground goes here, and its positive supply goes here. Okay, so I have connected this one. I think I have messed up the connection for the second one. So I connected the ground to 5 volts and 5 volts to ground. So that is corrected now. and then red one is positive. Yeah, cool. So now what I have done is I have connected all the IR sensors to my Arduino, and my Arduino can get the data from these sensors. But now we also need to, so once Arduino gets the data from these sensors, it needs to turn on the bulb and turn off the bulb. So to do that, first of all, see, everything in your house, it runs on AC current. You guys must be learning about AC current and DC current. Will learn about AC and DC currents in your physics classes, and I think grade 7 or 8 once you reach there. Okay, but the thing is, what you can't do directly is you cannot directly connect a wire from your Arduino to your bulb or to any appliance in your household. Okay, what you can do instead of that is you can get a relay board. This is called a relay board. This is nothing but basically a switch. Okay, so what we are doing is, rather than turning the bulb on and off, these relay boards, they need very small amount of power supply to turn on and off. This is basically a switch. Okay, so what we can do is, whenever we are moving our hands from left to right or right to left, whatever we want to do, whether we want to turn the bulb on or off, what we can do is we can just tell our switch to turn on and off. And whenever the switch turns on, bulb will turn on. And whenever the switch turns off, bulb will turn off. Okay, so basically whenever you are modifying your household electronics to work on a cloud-based system or like these gesture-based systems, the ideal thing is we are going to be removing the switches that are there in the houses. So wherever those switches are, just replacing those switches with relay boards, and these circuits will do the job. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. So we are going to, first of all, again, now this is a switch that needs power supply. Okay, so it needs 5 volts and ground. So those go here. Now 5 volts and ground. Okay, and now Arduino needs to tell the switch to turn on and off. So there is going to be a data pin. There is an input output pin, the last one, and then the second last one is another ground pin. So you can just, so now the brown wire that I've connected here needs to be connected to an Arduino port. So now my Arduino will tell my board to turn on and off using the last pin here. So I'm going to use pin number 2 for this. And the red wire is another ground wire, so I can just connect it to my ground board here. Okay, so cool. Now my circuit is ready, but what about the code? Okay, so we are going to now learn about the code that we need to write here. Okay, so I'm just going to switch to my code window, and I'm going to go through the code that I'm defining. Okay, the code that I'm writing, and once we are through the code, then I will upload the code and I'll show you how this runs. Okay, so what we are doing is basically, first of all, we are defining 3 inputs, three integers, A, B, and C. So A, B, and C are going to be basically zeros or ones depending on so A is going to be basically the output of my first IR sensor. Okay, and B is going to be the output of my second IR sensor. C is going to be the output of my third IR sensor. So initially they are 0. Okay, I'm defining 3. Okay, first of all, where am I coding this? I'm coding this on Arduino's IDE. So if you open up your browsers and just search for Arduino, so you see it's Arduino, the spelling is here, Arduino. Okay, Arduino. So this is Arduino's development and integrated development environment, just like VS Code. You guys can use VS Code as well, or VS Code or any other IDEs that you know, but it's a bit difficult to implement. There will be a lot of libraries to install to use VS Code for Arduino. Okay, so easiest thing we can do is just search for Arduino IDE, and you will be able to, these are free software, so free development environments. So just download an Arduino IDE, and once you download an Arduino IDE, you will, when you open up, when you open up a new window, so it's basically a blank screen with two functions, setup and loop. So I'm going to go through the code, then you'll be able to understand what is written here. But yeah, so the language in which we are coding is C. Okay, and the software that I'm using to code for Arduino is an Arduino IDE. Now here, first of all, I'm defining three variables that are going to basically store the store the readings of my infrared sensors. So A, B, and C are 0, 0, and 0. Okay. Now I'm creating another string variable called D, and I'm creating another string variable called PD that I'm saving it as 111. I will tell you the reason why I'm doing this later on. We'll come to the explanation for these, but initially what we can just do is we can define three variables, 0, 0, and 0, and then by default, whenever you open up an Arduino's IDE, you will get a setup function. You will get a setup function that will it will just show this. There won't be anything inside of this. So what I have written inside the setup function, so what does a setup function does is a setup function runs once. It runs for the very first time. Whenever an Arduino's code is running, the very first time the code runs, setup function will run once. Okay, and then by default, Arduino also has this loop function that runs again and again. Okay, so setup function and loop functions are two functions that are there by default in an Arduino, and setup function runs once. The very first time a code is running on an Arduino, setup function will run for only once, and then whatever is written inside the loop function, that will start running again and again indefinitely. Okay, so inside the setup function, what we are defining is we are defining which pins are our output and input ports. Okay, so right now I told you I have connected my I'm so sorry. Yeah, I told you that I have connected my three IR sensors on pin number 13, pin number 12, and pin number 7. Now earlier I had implemented these three pins, but I'm not doing that. So now I need pin number 13 is an input pin. Okay, so this is how I define whether a pin is an input pin or output pin. You write pin mode, PIN capital M ODE, pin mode. And then inside brackets, you first write the pin number. So pin number 13, then comma, and then whether it's an input pin or output pin. So now my Arduino will know that it has to take input on pin number 13. Okay. So it will get some data on pin number 13 and accept that data from pin number 13. Similarly, my second IR sensor is on pin number 12. So port number 12 will also accept an input, and then port number 7 is also an input. So three IR sensors, they are connected on pin number 7, 12, and 13. Okay, and then I have my bulbs switch is connected on pin number 2. So pin number 2 right now will become my output. So this is how I'm defining. Yeah, so the spelling of the board is Arduino, Arduino. Okay, and I'm just going to okay, so I'm just going to do this here, that okay, Arduino IDE. Let me just message on the group chat. Yeah, so I have messaged on the group chat what is the software I'm using. It's Arduino IDE. Just search for that on your browser and you will be able to find the software. So yeah, now pin number 2 is output, and 7, 12, and 13 are inputs. And then there is this another line here. This is just basically like console to print out whatever readings we are measuring. So you can ignore this. Even if you don't have this line, your code will work completely fine. Okay, so I'm just going to have this line here because I will be able to show you what the readings of my circuits are. Okay, so it's basically, so serial is basically like console on your browsers. So serial is serial monitor is where outputs can be printed out for an Arduino IDE. So we have to start the console, start the serial monitor by saying serial.begin, and then inside the brackets you write the, so there is this number is basically, it's kind of refresh rate, but it's not refresh rate, it's called baud rate. uh, you guys don't have to worry about that right now. It's basically, yeah, don't worry about this number right now. Just, yeah, for an Arduino, just write 9600 serial.begin, and this will start your console. Okay, if you just ignore this line, if you don't write this line as well, your code will run completely fine. All right, so now once your setup is done, after that my loop function will run again and again. So inside the loop function, I define what is my Arduino going to check again and again as long as the code is running. Okay, so first of all, so I told you we are taking in inputs from pin number 13, 12 and 7. So, and we want to store the inputs in the variables A, B and C. Okay, so what we do is we are going to write this. So variable A, the integer A that we are defining, is going to read whatever value is coming on pin number 13. Okay, and so if pin number 13 is basically, now these inputs are going to be either 0 or 1. These are digital inputs, these are not analog inputs, these are digital inputs. So it's basically like a Boolean variable, it's like a switch, whether the switch is on or off, 0 or 1. So A, B and C, they can all either be zeros or ones. Okay, so digital read whatever pin number 13 has the value of. So pin number 13 is getting the data from the first IR sensor. Now whether the first IR sensor is on or off, that is stored in variable A using this line. So digital read tells your Arduino to read whatever input is coming on pin number 13. And how do we know that pin number 13 is input? Is because we defined here that pin number 13 is input. See, so pin number 13 is input, it will have some data. Now read that data and store that data in variable A. Okay, so variable A will read the data of pin number 13 and store its value. It will either be 0 or 1. Similarly, variable B can store the data from pin number 12. We have three input pins, pin number 13, 12 and 7. And pin number 7's input can be stored in variable C. Okay, so now what's happening is A can be 0 or 1, B can be 0 or 1, C can be 0 or 1. Okay, now for A, B and C, for all three of these, what we want to do is we want to detect precise motion. That my hand is first of all turning on IR sensor A, then turning on the IR sensor B, then turning on the IR sensor C. Okay, so by default A, B and C will have a reading of 1, 1 and 1. Okay, and if there is something in front of it, A, B and C's reading will become 0, 0 and 0. So what I'm doing is I'm creating another variable called a string variable called D. And then I'm turning this A, B, C integers into strings so that my inputs can together, they can be either 111, 110, 101, 100, 000, 011, 010, 001, 000. There can be 8 different combinations of A, B and C values. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm saying D is converts the A value to a string. So basically 1 or 0 will become a string. Then convert B to string and convert C to string like this and join them together. So now D will become 1, 1. If there is nothing in front of all of these three sensors, then the value of D will always be 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, let's say now if something comes in front of IR sensor A, so A will become 0 and that will make the value of D 0, 1, 1. Okay, And so like if let's say A is on, B is off, and C is on, then the value of D will become 1 0 1, and so on. So what we want to do is we want to detect our hands motion from left to right. So first A has to turn off. First A will become 0. Then while A is 0, B will become 0 as my hand is moving to the right side. And then while B is 0, C will also become 0. Okay, so first A has to become 0, then B has to become 0, then C has to become 0. That is how it's a complete left to right motion. Okay, it's not like I just moved my hand in front of A and then removed my hand. That should not turn the bulb on. Okay, we want the complete swipe motion from left to right of our hand. So what we are doing is we are first of all storing the default variable of D in a PD variable and saying its value to be 111. Now we will check if D becomes 011. Okay, when when all three sensors are 111, then if D becomes 011, basically when all three are on and there is something coming in front of A IR sensor, then the value of D becomes 011. Okay, so basically it's detecting the start of our motion. Okay, so then we are saying that let the value of PD become 011. Okay, now when the value of PD is 011, basically my motion has started, and then the value of D becomes 001. It means that A is already off, but now B has also turned off. There is basically something was present in front of A, now it has moved towards B, the second IR sensor. So the value of D becomes 011. So if PD is 011 and D becomes 001, then it's like we are in the middle of the gesture of swiping from left to right. So PD let the value of PD be 001. Now once PD is 001, all we need to do is we need to place something in front of the IR sensor C, the third IR sensor. So when PD is 001 and then my hand moves to the right side, the third IR sensor will also become 0. So the value of D will become 000. There is something in front of all three sensors as my hand moved. Okay, so now what I'm doing is when PD is 001 and D is 000, only then I'm telling it to turn the port number 2 on. So I told you we made port number 2 as output here. This is where the switch for my bulb is connected. Okay, so I'm just saying here, once the first IR sensor becomes, when my hand moves from first IR sensor to the second IR sensor here, and then to the third IR sensor, then, okay, here, sorry, yeah. So reading ABC's value, and then here my hand is starting to move from left to right. Here my hand is in the middle of its motion from left to right, and once it has completed the motion, then digital write, basically on pin number 2 write the value of 1, turn the switch on pin number 2 on. Okay, so inputs, to read the value from an input port, you use the command digital read. Okay, and to write a value on a port, on an output port, you use the command digital write. And then the port number in which you want to write something and what do you want to write. So again, these are digital pins, so they will only accept values of 0 or 1. So 0 is low and 1 is high. So port number 2 becomes high. And we switch PD back to 111 so that it can again check whether the motion of left swipe or right swipe is happening or not. Okay. Okay. So, and then similarly, what we do is we define the right to left motion. Okay. So see, for the left to right motion, first A turned off, then AB turned off, then ABC turned off. Okay, so first A becomes 0, right? And then AB becomes 0. Basically A is staying 0, but my hand is moving to the right side, so B is also becoming 0. And then as my hand moves to the right side, A, B, C, all three become 0. Only then we turn on our bulb. We turn on the switch for our bulb. For turning off our bulb, we have to detect a left swipe. So my hand moves from right to left. So first, the third IR sensor, first the C value will have to become 0. Okay, so PD again, if PD is 111, and then something has come in front of the C variable. So the value of D is A plus B plus C. So this 0 means C has turned off. Okay, then we do the same thing. We let PD become 110. And if PD is 110, basically if my hand is already in front of the third IR sensor and my hand moves towards the second IR sensor, so second IR sensor's value also becomes 0. So D will become 100. Then let PD is equal to 100. And then what we do is, if PD is 100 and then my hand moves to the left side, so A also becomes 0. So here, see, here, first all were 111, and then my hand came in front of C, and then my hand came in front of C to B, and then my hand moved from C to B to A. So first C turns 0, then B turns 0 here, and then A turns 0. Okay, so only then what we do is we tell our Arduino to turn off port number 2. Okay, to turn off port number 2, and then set the value of PD again to 111. Now this way, this is going to just detect your hand moving from left to right. If it's moving from left to right, then it will turn your bulb on using this command. And here, using these three if statements, if your hand is moving from right to left, it will turn the bulb off. The logic of this code is very simple. Okay, as long as there is something in front of the first IR sensor and then my hand moves to the second IR sensor here, and then my hand moves to the third IR sensor, only then turn on the bulb. And similarly, if something is starting from the third sensor and then my hand moves towards the second sensor, and then my hand moves towards the first sensor. So this detects the right to left motion, left swipe basically, and turns your bulb off. And the top statement here, this detects your right swipe and turns the bulb on. Okay, so once you have written the code, this is it. This is all you need for the code. It's a very small code. And once you have written the code, you will have to, so there is a check mark here, there is a tick mark here. So click on this tick mark and this will compile your code. Okay, so you need to compile your code first. And then what you can do is, let me come back to my circuit board here. So what you need to do is, you will have, so whenever you buy an Arduino, you will get a cable, a USB cable like this. So it will have a cable, one port will be this, and another port will be a simple USB that can be connected to your computer. Okay, so you can just simply so you can simply then connect your, so I have to, okay, disconnect this first of all. So yeah, so I can just connect my Arduino to this port here. And once you do that, let me switch back to the IDE.
And here, what you have to do is you have to upload the code. Okay, so there is this upload button. You'll have to click on this upload button to upload the code. But before you upload the code, you'll have to go to Tools and then select which board are you using. So there is a board here. There is a board manager. So here, because I have already set this Arduino Uno up, so it can detect that I am already using Arduino Uno. But for the first time, if you're using this, you will have to go to this boards here and then select Arduino. There are lots of different types of Arduino boards. You can use any of these. Okay, you can buy any of these. All of these are easily available in the market. And the code that I have written will run for all of these boards. No issues. Okay, so just you can get any of these boards, and whichever board you have, just select that board. So I have Arduino Uno. I'm clicking on that. And which port is your Arduino connected to? So there is a port option here. Just below your board menu, there is a port option. Once you go to your port menu, it will display. So let's say you have multiple Arduino boards connected to your computer. So it will list out all the ports on which your Arduino or all those boards are connected. So because I only have one Arduino Uno board connected to my computer right now, so it's already telling me that COM3 is the port number on which this Arduino Uno board is connected. So just select that. And now you can upload. So click on this upload and you see it says compiling sketch. And then it will start uploading sketch. And it's done uploading. So once your code has uploaded, then we can come back to my board here. You can come back to my scene here. And now let me see. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to connect my bulb. Okay. I think I have connected something wrong. Let me just check. So I have one sensor, second sensor, I think, yeah, I have just connected my bulb wrong. Let me just, 1 second, connect the bulb correctly. So the code is already uploaded on the board. Let me just, check this and check this. So I'm just checking if the connections here, okay? So I have V output red is connected to plus, and then this orange is connected here. That orange is 13, 12 and 7. Okay, green and blue. Okay, and then these are the power supply pins. Okay, I was just rechecking. IR sensors are very common. You don't, so the IR sensors that I have, they are HW201. But just search for IR sensors, and I will add the links from where you can buy these parts. Okay, and there are lots of websites where these are very easily available. Okay, so now I have to. So yellow is positive, orange is negative. Okay, and then brown is the data pin that is connected to pin number 2, and red is another ground pin that goes here. Okay, so all right, so now I can connect my Arduino back. I hope this works. I think that I'm doing something wrong with the wiring connections here, but yeah, see, so As I move my hand to the right side, it just turns off on, and as I move my hand to the left side, it turns off. So I don't think my hand is visible clearly. See, so see, when my hand is here, you can see that it detects the first IR sensor. You can see that there is a red LED glowing whenever my finger comes close to my first IR sensor. So it's detecting that my finger is close by. Okay. Now similarly, right now only the second IR sensor. Okay. Right now, only the second IR sensor is detecting that my hand is here. So now see, if I start from second and move to the third, I'm still doing a left to right motion, but my bulb is not turning on, because the way we have coded the logic is that all three motions, the motion has to start from here and go like this. Okay, so see, each of them can detect whenever anything is closer to you or far away from you. Okay, so you see, each of them have one LED. See, this one has an LED that turns on whenever my finger is close to it. See, you can detect a very small red glow happening on these sensors whenever my finger gets close to it, and same goes for B, and same goes for A. So now A is 0, now A is 1. Whenever something is close to it, A is 0. The value is 0, and something, whenever there is nothing around it, then value is 1. So A is 0, and so right now A becomes 0, while A is 0 if B is 0, and while B is 0 if C is 0, then that turns on. Now to turn off, first you make C 0. Okay, so first something has to come in front of C. Then keeping C 0, B has to become 0, and then A has to become 0, keeping B and C 0. Okay, now this is a simple logic that I coded. There are lots of other ways motion sensor can be detected. There are different sensors that also come to detect specifically to detect motion. Okay, but those I am planning to do some more sessions on different type of motion sensors. The reason I wanted to use IR sensors is because using IR sensors, you can attach it to anything that you want, and so basically these IR LEDs, you can attach these IR LEDs to anything that you want, and what will happen is, in a dark room, not in a dark room, in any environment, using right cameras, you can detect like proper motion, proper gestures. So like in Harry Potter, there are different movements of their wand for each of their spells, right? So what you can do is you can attach an IR LED to, a stick or a wand that you can buy from any store, and then using the right cameras, you can detect the motion of your wand using the IR sensor, IR LED, and then based on that you can, like, let's say, turn on the lights, turn off the lights, turn on the volume of your TV, turn off the volume, lower down the volume of your TV, or just change the color of the light, or do anything based on different type of gestures. Like, if you're making a triangular shape with your fingers or with your wand, then those different gestures, you can write codes to detect those different types of gestures. Okay, right now my only gesture that I have written here is for detecting left to right and right to left. Okay, so yeah, so this one needs because I have placed these far apart, so it needs a slow motion. Otherwise, if they were closer together, then one swipe would have done the job. Simple swipe. I have to move my fingers a bit slowly. Yeah. Cool. So I'll upload the code of this, and I will attach the link of the code files on this video's description. I will also attach links of where you can buy these parts, and I will attach a file uh, with the proper circuit diagram of what I have made here, so that if you guys are trying this at your home, you guys can buy the right parts first of all, and then uh, yeah, buy the right parts, and along with that, just have the proper information of how to build the circuit, so that you guys don't break anything in your home. Okay, so hope you guys had fun, and happy new year to everyone. Today is 31st, so yeah, happy new year to everyone, and see you guys next year, next year. And just write in the comments whatever videos, if you guys have some ideas that you would like us to show you how to implement, and I would make a project on that, and I can uh, show you guys how to do that. Okay, like if you guys have any ideas, any plans of something that you want to work on, some project that you are facing difficulty in, or you have no idea how to start but you want to do something, just write in the comments those project ideas, and I will try to work on those and see if I can make a video for those and show you guys how to work on it. Cool. Chalo. So happy new year, good night, and have fun. Bye bye. I'm going to stop the stream.